Back from vacation. I'm in an undisclosed location. You'd think I wouldn't be back on the road this quick, but I am. And the question is, where's Anthony?
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. I, of course, am your host, Glenn Hausman. Anthony Melchiori is not here today. Unfortunately, he had a funeral to attend because of this horrible COVID situation, but I promise he will be back tomorrow. Now, tomorrow, I'm going to be broadcasting live from NEWH's regional event downtown in Bethesda, Maryland, outside DC. I'm looking forward to doing a panel with those folks over there tomorrow morning and then bringing you our regular show at noon. So for a couple of minutes late tomorrow, it's because my panel ran a couple of minutes late because we had such great contact with such great content over there. Now, before we bring on our guests, I just want to say to everybody, we hit 500 shows. I took a vacation. I got a new shirt. I got a new haircut. I'm totally ready to go for the next 500 shows out there. I'm really excited that you guys have all been with us on this incredible journey as we've gone. And right now I'm in a beautiful hotel and I'm very excited to be back out on the road doing what I love to be doing after a week. I guess I was on the road traveling with my family, eating great pancakes out of a pancake machine from a hotel brand that we'll talk about another day, and lots of other fun stuff like amusement parks, took my kids to colleges, et cetera, all of that kind of good stuff. But I do want to thank everybody over there at Eco Tech Waste. They've been great sponsors of ours, and I really appreciate everything that Tom Gilmore and the team over there has done over at Eco Technology, Eco Tech Waste. Now, I don't have any of their garbage cans on me right now, but I'm looking around in this hotel room and I got all these plastic bins. Why have plastic? They need to be cleaned. There's a whole lot of work that needs to go into those. Why not just use disposable, recycled cardboard containers? Think about it when you have conferences and events, how quick that'll be, how it shows you're environmentally friendly, and it'll help meeting planners love you even more. All right, today I've got a very, very special guest, somebody that I absolutely love and respect in this industry. I'm talking about Dorothy Dowling, SVP over at Best Western and their whole company, BWH Hotel Group. Dorothy, so great to see you today.
Glenn, it's always a pleasure to be with you as well. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being so wonderful and being such a supporter of me and everything that I've been doing for so long now, longer than we'd like to probably admit. How long have you been with Best Western now? It's got to be like 15 years or something crazy.
Well, I am coming up on 17 years in November. So,
oh my goodness. What's the secret to longevity in a particular organization for so long?
Well, Best Western, as you know, is a very, very special company because of the collaborative nature of our culture. So to me, it has just been such an honor and privilege to work with our members and to be able to co-innovate with them along the way. So that's what I would say is the secret sauce at Best Western. It really is the teamwork and the way we work together.
Yes, and now you guys are going to be making some changes shortly. Our good friend David Kong, who has absolutely been an incredible leader for Best Western, is going to be leaving under his own volition. It's time for him to take more time with his family after all the great work he's done. But him and you and Ron Pohl and the whole executive team over there has done such an amazing job at reinventing and transforming the company over these years in a more complicated framework that you have because you're so member-based as opposed to some other companies out there that could make demands by fiat. You really have to get everybody's buy-in there. So I love that part of the culture of the company. And I think the changes that you've made over the last decade or so have really proven true and set you up for success in the future. What has that been like for you over the last number of years as you started to reinvent the company and expand it, bring in new brands and go beyond just the Best Western core brand?
Well, I think you said it very well, Glenn. We're going to celebrate 75 years this year in North America. But it really has been, in my opinion, the last 11 that has been incredibly transformational. It's when we've gone from 1 to 18 brands, where we've really listened to our customers in terms of creating and differentiating our product. So it has become far more relevant to both the development community, the buyer community, and the end user, the guest. And it's also just been the ability, as I said earlier, the co-innovation and collaboration with our membership to really continue to build this great organization that we now call BWH.
Yes, for sure. And the entire board is fantastic. Last year, I had the honor of being able to participate in your virtual annual conference, and I got to do a great session with the board members. And it's amazing how supportive they are to make change, which is so essential because a lot of times owners get very stuck at what they're doing, and they need some outside influence to try to move them forward. But I see with the Best Western board and being involved in meetings with them that they are very forward thinking and much more open to change than other companies that I've seen out there.
Well, I think you again framed it up beautifully,
Yep.
Glenn. It is an incredible commitment for any of our elected hoteliers to be part of the board because it's probably 100 to 120
Right.
day commitment away from their business where they collaborate with the executive team and the broader membership in general. But you're right, it has been an incredible journey where they actually participate with us. They bring that member voice forward, but they have such deep understanding of the competitive environment because many of them operate competitive brands. They really understand in terms of their customers because they're in the hotels so much
Right.
that the level of what I consider that marketing, that boots on the ground understanding that helps elevate our game and partner with them in very special ways. I think because we're a bottoms up as opposed to a top down organization, they bring so much of that observational learning that powers our brand forward.
Right, and that is a really great point that you're focused on there, and they really are terrific at doing that. But I'd like to shift the conversation and say congratulations to you because you are getting the Stephen Brenner Award at the NYU Hospitality Conference. Really a tremendous honor. It's really given to the top folks in the industry. You are so well deserving of this award. How does it feel to be recognized in such a way by your industry peers, Dorothy?
Well, Glenn, I have to tell you, it was something that was totally unexpected.
Mhm.
It was incredibly gratifying. When I shared the news with David, of course, because he won it in 2013 and he proudly displays the beautiful silver plate in his office, it was something that took my breath away. And it's more to me about all of the individuals that have been honored
Right.
with this award historically. But when I think about awards of this nature, this is really a testament to the great work of our brand, the great work of our hoteliers, the great work of the team that I get to lead in terms of how we've been able to work together to be transformational contributors to the industry, not just Best Western. So while it is incredibly gratifying, and I have to say to be the second woman that has been awarded this after Marilyn Nelson, of course, is such an incredible honor. So I can't wait until November 8th, but it truly is a team
Right.
celebration in terms of this recognition. But
It-
thank you for calling that out.
It's really fantastic, and and this is so Dorothy to give credit to everybody else, but really, you have earned this. You deserve this. I won't make you feel any awkward by sharing too much praise on you, but for those of you who are unaware, Marilyn Carlson Nelson was, of course, CEO of the then Carlson Companies, which has split off into different directions. Most notably, now you know it as Radisson Hotel Group or Radisson Americas here in the United States. And she was an absolutely tremendous leader. One of the earliest, strongest female leaders that I came in contact with years ago before that started to be more commonplace. So I can see why you feel so honored to be in her category as well these days. All right.
Thank you.
So one of the reasons why you got this award is for innovation, and you've been focused on marketing and done great things. I loved all the Disney the Disney promotions that you do over the summer, and I think it's like 10 years ago or so, you were really at the forefront of it and partnering with YouTube stars, for example, and really getting into new and different things. And that's kind of been your modus operandi, is thinking about new ways to connect with guests. After this COVID crisis and after all that we've been through, how does that change the way that you see with creating great marketing plans that are going to get guests into your member hotels?
Well, thank you, Glenn. I appreciate the compliment. I would credit that I have an incredible team and agency partners that really help us stay on top of our game. But COVID for me has been a major reset. As you know, we all have read, is that the digital marketplace has advanced 10 years and 6 months. So
Right.
really, in 2020, all of us focused in on lower funnel. We were in search and meta search because we were only displaying our communication opportunities
Right.
to customers that were showing high intention. Back in May, we re-entered the market in a pretty aggressive way, same spend levels that we had in 2019. But the innovation that we took this year is that we have shifted our approach to media buying to invest much more heavily in programmatic, because now you can buy television, video on demand. All of those kinds of opportunities now are bid opportunities in terms of where to play, and also to be so much more prescriptive in terms of audiences. I always think of myself as a 55 plus woman who loves to watch Hulu. Well, you can now buy audiences by that, because if you think about
Right.
when you are engaging with Hulu, you sign in. Hulu has all of my data. They know my age. They know a lot of information about me. So the ability to appear against very specific audiences and actually understand some of the brand lift you're getting in those channels has really changed. So we still do some of the traditional television, because certainly that gives you lift, and in news and sports, you certainly want to be live. But the connected TV and the programmatic buying strategy has really changed the way we are in media.
Right.
The other thing I would offer is really in the loyalty space, with a lot of the changes that's happening again with cookies changing in the advertising broader space. Most brands are investing in a customer data platform so that they can house a lot of their loyalty information about their customers, as well as what's happening in the broader advertising ecosystem.
Right.
So again, all of these things just empower us to be far more relevant, to be far more targeted, and really engage with our customers in a much more compelling way. So that's what I would offer, the innovation through COVID. And it's been an incredible journey for us, because being back in May, we're doing all of those things as
Right.
we've gone through summer, and now we're positioning for fall.
Excellent. And there's a lot to unpack there. I think you said more in a minute and a half than we could get through an entire hour. But let's work backwards. Loyalty program. How important is that for you? What percentage of reservations are delivered to your hotels over there? Give us a little understanding about why you're doubling down on the loyalty program and you think it's so essential.
So let me offer three things. If I answered your questions, in 2019, loyalty represented 48% of our revenue contribution to our hotels. When you unpack that even further and say, okay, 80% of the volume that we do on bestwestern.com is loyalty members. So you see on the relative basis in terms of revenue contribution, how important those loyalty customers are. But as we look into the future and we understand what's happening in the advertising ecosystem, that first party data of loyalty becomes even more important, because the permission-based nature of those customers opting in allows you to have so much more information about them when you broaden this in this customer data platform. So loyalty to me was important in 2018. It is extremely important in 2021. And as cookies move out of the ecosystem in 22 and 23, it is going to become by far the most important investment that brands will make.
Dorothy, could you explain that to people that don't understand what's going on? Because I'm only sort of understanding that a lot of these companies like Google are starting to move away from cookies, which are, of course, a piece of information placed on your computer so they could recognize you. How is that being changed, and how are you going to adapt to make sure that you still make great connections with your program members?
Well, the real difference, Glenn, is when you have customers in your loyalty program, they have already given you permission to communicate with them. So this is why you then are able to, in a customer data platform, when you're buying advertising on other platforms, Google, TripAdvisor, YouTube, and others, all of that becomes integrated. So you get a much more comprehensive view of Glenn Houseman. So that's really where that difference is. And that's why everyone is highly focused on that. Before, we didn't have all of those restrictions, but now every customer is being asked to give permission if they want to hear from an advertiser.
Right. And I'm going to assume, and we know what that does to people, that this is probably following the heels of all of the privacy work that Europe has done, correct?
For sure. Europe has paved the way. California is not too far behind. It's obviously changing state by state.
Right.
But certainly, yes, the GDPR rules in Europe really redefined the customer experience.
So with the loyalty program then becoming even more essential for you to be able to communicate with your customers, what is the messaging that they want to hear? And I know that's really a vague question because I want to hear different messaging on different days of the week, depending on the mood I'm in and what I'm thinking. That seems to be a serious challenge that you have to kind of figure your way through.
Yeah, so I would offer two things if I could, Glenn, is that coming out of COVID, in terms of our broader messaging in our loyalty platform and our advertising as a whole, we have tried to become far more relatable to our customers, understanding the kind of experiences that everyone has been through.
Right.
We want to reconnect with them because when all brands were dark for about 18 months through COVID, so you've got to rebuild the positioning with your brand story and then also relating to customers. When you then layer on the loyalty message, so some of that has to still be there because you'll have extremely frequent customers, 200 night plus a year customers that you have seen no activity for a
Right.
period of time. So you've got to engage with them in the same way. But what I would offer to you, Glenn, it's not perfect. The loyalty program data gives us
Right.
insights into your behavior, but really it's a kind of offers and messaging that we put in front of you that you open, that you engage with, that you book. That is how we track in terms of how to communicate with you, in terms of what's important to you.
So give me one success then of this summer travel season, and I know that'll be specifically leisure, that you found was very successful, that really connected with the way people are feeling and became sort of the travel zeitgeist.
Well, there's two things I would say is in the connected TV space, as I said, we built a very modular campaign that was tracking with, again, this reset in travel. Because, US Travel did a beautiful job in terms of researching the customer, and they had raring to go customers, which were the 50 plus first out of the box getting vaccines. The ready to go, those that wanted to be there and were certainly in the process of shopping and booking. And then you had the reticent traveler, those that weren't quite yet ready. And those three audiences are still here today. And so there's different messaging. Reticent, they're not yet ready. It's around some of the duty of care, the cleaning programs, the protocols to make people feel very safe. And the raring to go, it's really very offer centric. It's about giving them confidence, but also putting offers out there. So we had different campaigns that we shot modularly because our campaigns ran across North America. Obviously, the Canada-US audiences had to be slightly different.
Right.
We had campaigns with masks, without masks, destination, different audiences, seniors, families, individuals. And we had nature kinds of environments versus other types of opportunity, even though some of the cityscape environment wasn't yet there. And we tested those. So we can test all of those things now on YouTube and Facebook in the connected TV environment to see where you get greater visibility and viewability. So that was what we did in the broader advertising space. In the loyalty space on promotions, we focused in because we knew that the pent-up demand this summer, that there was going to be a lot of rate premiums, and we wanted to give folks a reason to book for us. So we put travel cards into the market. So we gave folks $25 travel cards every time they stayed with us, every night they stayed. And that was really, again, to give our hotels an opportunity so that they didn't have to discount, but also come out with a strong offer to encourage booking behavior. It also layers in an opportunity to bring customers back in the fall because summer is typically our high occupancy season. Fall, we tend to see a little bit of a drop off. We want to put those travel cards in folks' pockets that can only be redeemed at Best Western because it gives them a reason to come back to us in the fall.
I love that. I remember a number of years ago when we were going through an accelerated increase of gas prices, and you were worried that summer travel would be down, and you guys did gas cards. I thought that was really clever at the time. Really interesting. We're getting questions from the audience. How are your owners and members reacting to the current strategy? What's on their mind? And maybe share a little bit about the back and forth about how you kind of work together with all of them as well.
Yeah, so that is a really great question, Glenn. And I would offer, again, three thoughts. Best Western gave $65 million back to our members through COVID. We cut our fees dramatically because we wanted to protect our members and help them get through the other side of COVID. So there's an incredible amount of goodwill that has been established with our members because they would tell us that we were the only brand that got out there as quickly as we did and really did it in such a thoughtful way. The second thing that I would offer is the members are very appreciative of these travel card offers because they really feel they see it coming. So they see the bookings coming in, so they know it is an effective promotion and it helps them protect rates. So they are very grateful for those kinds of offers. And the third thing that I would say with our members is that they truly appreciate that we're continuing to evolve our thinking. We did not invest the same dollars in 2020. We put those monies on the sidelines so we could come back strong in 2021. Our members, because they give us those monies, it's part of their member fees, but it's money they want us to make sure that we spend as carefully and as effectively as possible. So they were very appreciative that we pivoted quickly coming out of March last year, 2020, and we're able to make those decisions. And we are able to move up and down based on what we see the demand in the market. So we run about an 80% share of voice in all of the major channels because we know that we have to continue to build the brand consideration, but we also have to give people a reason to book.
Right. You certainly do. And then getting back to being able to make that connection with customers where they are, you've had you mentioned live TV, for example, and you're focused on sports. You've had great relationships with Major League Baseball for spring training, for example. I think that's such a clever, smart promotion because people watch sporting events. They don't necessarily watch those other things on live TV anymore. And then you move to the digital sphere with streaming and stuff like that. And what you said earlier, you're really able to target those particular audiences that you want in very specific locations. Could you share a little bit with us more about what your live TV strategy is? And then we could get into more of that digital strategy.
Well, you did such a beautiful job explaining it, Glenn.
I'm just showing off that I remember a few things here, Dorothy.
Yes, you do an excellent job. So it is exactly what you said. News and sports are when you reach customers live, and people typically don't watch a baseball game 3 days after it's aired unless you're a super aficionado of
I'm
a
not
particular player.
one of them, but God bless him.
Yeah, but programmatic for us has really allowed us to speak to audiences in a different way. And when we think about travelers, I'm one of those people. When you're on the road and you get to come back and you get to binge watch on Hulu or some other subscription-based service, but we're only paying for our ads in terms of when they actually show. So it is just the science of data that empowers us to now add another way to reach our audiences in a more powerful way. We index at a very high level against 50 plus and millennials, quite frankly. So it allows us to buy those audiences on a very prescriptive basis, but get the reach through news and sports, which is, as you already identified, that is where the eyeballs are during those games.
Yeah, for sure. And let me break the news to poor millennials out there. You're all 40 at this point, so they're not as young as people think. I'm getting Dorothy. I'm getting tired of people confusing millennials with Generation Z. Right? I don't think people have figured that out yet. They haven't figured out the nuances between them. But Generation Z is a fully digital native generation where our generations were digital immigrants and millennials were a little of both depending on when you were born. How does this start to frame how you're going to be approaching not just younger millennials, but these up and coming Gen Z people that are now in the workplace and making decisions on where to stay?
Yes, again, a brilliant synopsis of it, Glenn. And I will tell you, I have one of those in my household. I think you do too. And that is where all of this programmatic buying just empowers you. My son almost watches exclusively YouTube. But with our programmatic buying, we're able to hit those audiences in very significant ways. My son always points out how many times he sees the Best Western commercial.
That's great.
And he probably sees it more than I, because I am not a big television viewer. I typically am getting it on podcasts and other ways through some of the news networks that I consume.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And that's a really good point that you just made. And it's one of the phenomenons that I see in my house as well, Dorothy. My 17-year-old twin boys, they don't watch regular television as we would consider it. Television
Right.
to them is YouTube, which is why I thought that Rhett and Link thing that you did a number of years ago was such a really smart idea to start to really approach and appeal towards that very specific audience. Plus, you get so much better tools on what's working and what's not working, which I guess
Sure.
helps inform you on stuff. Maybe give us a good lesson or two that you learned when marketing digitally to a particular group, some interesting insight that you were able to leverage into some other successes.
Well, a lot of this is fairly nascent, Glenn, because it's really sort of been a breakout strategy in 2021 in
Right.
terms of this component of programmatic. I mean, programmatic has been around, it's just really got a much stronger presence this year.
Mhm.
But with Facebook and YouTube in particular, not only have they been able to do a lot of this audience capabilities for us in terms of being able to buy very prescriptively, but
Right.
they also allow us to do this A/B testing. So you can have version A of your ad and version B of your ad, and they can give you a lot of metrics in terms of how much it was viewed,
Mhm.
what the brand lift associated with it was, etc. So the kinds of things that we used to do with the Nielsen's in the old days in terms of testing, but you were always really behind the curve because you'd be out there and then it would be next year before you could make those adjustments. Now you're getting that feedback live, almost like we get our social media feedback on a daily basis. So it allows us to pivot and change out music, change out voiceovers, change out imaging
Wow.
based on what we're hearing. And because we actually produce our content in a modular format, it allows us to make some of those pivots based on the learnings.
Wow. And you could do it relatively quick turnaround time as well.
Exactly. Exactly. People aren't putting the same kind of dollars in very expensive TV spots like we used to do. We're
Right.
creating many more options that we can pivot based on what the customer is telling us.
Yeah, I think I feel like it was Kemmons Wilson who decades ago said something along the lines of he knows that half of his advertising works, he just didn't know which half it was.
Right.
Now you really get to understand the full picture of how your advertising is working, deploy dollars only behind things that you know are going to have success. Of course, you do experimenting and stuff, but do you find this new way of doing things digitally is much more effective in your ability to make emotional connections with customers than things that you might have been putting out there 10, 15 years ago?
You know, I think the jury's still out on that, Glenn. I would say that this is the first year that we've been able to do some of those kinds of A/B testing.
Right.
What I do think that we all have to be mindful of, and it's something that I try to always remind people of, is that because a lot of this digital attribution is still early days, that it is only giving us a piece of the puzzle, and that certainly in digital and search meta, a display, it's still based on last click. So it's a good directional metric, but it is not an absolute. So it's really looking at all of the data points we get on impression share, click through, engagement metrics. All of those things together help us make better decisions. So I think we're going to continue to innovate and learn. We're seeing a lot of ideas that come through from customers. And then when you combine that with what we have with guest satisfaction metrics and other loyalty data points that we have, we just are much more able to make some sound decisions about how we invest our dollars.
Right. And that at the end of the day is essential. But I got to tell you, Dorothy, the thing that strikes me in my business most is I'm kind of always swimming in this world of I don't know what I don't know. And your world in digital marketing and everything else is filled with that. How do you give yourself opportunities to learn and make mistakes without beating yourself up over it?
Yeah. So I share your same point of view, Glenn, is that I feel like I know that I know what I don't know. And I do think that it is a commitment to being a constant student of the game.
Right.
And so I would offer a few things. One is I am a big reader. I still spend a good couple of hours a day, whether it's with a key book, like I'm reading Hubert Jolie's new book, The Heart of Business, which I love.
And Hubert Joly was a former president of Carlson who went on
was.
to save and
Best
basically
Buy.
make Best Buy the most amazing big box store there is. Please continue.
For sure.
Yeah.
But it's also around keeping up to speed with a lot of different publications and podcasts that are giving us new information as it's unfolding. So that's where I fundamentally feel we all have to invest our time to continue to be smart. I also have amazing colleagues and teammates and agencies that also we can bounce ideas with and challenge ourselves. And we do that with our members and our board because they're bringing, as I said, that customer lens and that experiential lens. So to me, it is that collaboration, co-innovation, that testing, but it's also a commitment to being a constant student. And to me, it's about the reading, and then it's also about investing in the technology so that you are engaging with it. You know, for example, I probably have more Google Hubs in my home than I think was possible, and I have Alexa in many of those same places because I often want to hear what Alexa says versus what Google says.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you what Alexa says. She goes, "I don't know that." We get that.
Sometimes she does.
We get a lot of that in our house, but she's really good at counting down how much time I need for my French coffee press and for telling me the weather, and I like that. And she addresses me by name now, which is very exciting.
But what I love, Glenn, about what's happened in media, and I'm sure you experience this, is that in the morning I always start with Google Hub with Give Me the News, and she now has created a mashup because I get BBC, I get the Canadian news, I get all the American news, and I get all of the technology stocks. So, but she's created that over time by my ass and creates that mashup, right? That's pretty powerful stuff.
It is pretty powerful stuff and is going to help companies like yours get better access to like-minded customers in the future. Now, we got a couple of good questions here. Michael Weinberg is wondering, has BW considered sponsoring content creators? And Mike McManus is, what about brand ambassador programs, affiliates? Those kind of fall in the same world. I know you've done that in the past. How are you thinking about that going forward?
For sure. We definitely have content creators across each one of our verticals. We are very focused.
I went to one of those meetings once because I was doing some work with you guys on your website a number of years ago.
That's correct, Glenn. So we focus on them. They teach us a lot as well, but they drive a lot of our audience profiling because of the great content they create. And in terms of brand ambassadors, today we have several different content creators that help us in business travel, leisure travel, senior travel, automobile travel. So we're always interested in entertaining those concepts and hope that people will reach out to us. We try to stimulate that demand in terms of outreach to different creators to ask them and submit ideas for us.
Awesome. That's great. Now, obviously, No Vacancy Live and Friday Night Audit, your two top podcasts that you listen to. But what other podcasts are you following, Dorothy? Adele would like to know.
Well, Brene Brown has always been a very personal favorite of mine because I just think that she speaks to a lot of leadership qualities, and particularly because she's been such a breakthrough female leader. She's someone that I like to listen to a couple of days a week. She's probably the one I listen to most. There's a couple of entrepreneurial ones that I like to listen to as well with people that are doing breakthrough kinds of things. But she would be the one I'm probably most faithful to.
Excellent. I love that. So what are you thinking about in terms of the fall? I mean, it doesn't look like the fall is going to go the way we wanted the fall to go. And that means you need to find opportunity in new and different ways. How are you looking to make connections with travelers, the ones that are going to travel, so they stay with you as opposed to some of our friends out there?
Yeah, so you're right, Glenn, is that the fall isn't going to be quite as robust as we anticipated. Business travel is definitely coming back. We have brought back a lot of our teammates because, as you know, the sales cycle is a process. It's not something that happens overnight. So it is connecting with all of those buyers and working with the major partners like GBTA and others to make sure we're planning for that reset as they re-enter the
Global Business Travel Association.
Thank you, Glenn. So as they reset their plans, we want to make sure we're part of their consideration. Many of the business travel buyers have moved to more of a chain-wide procurement strategy for this year because they're uncertain about where their volumes are going to materialize. So we work with them to make sure we're part of that process so that they have our rooms and our pricing on their various shelves. With regards to sort of the broader story, if you look at business travel, it's really the small business community that is returning. And, Reggie Agarwal at CVent did a study just in advance of his big event in Vegas a few weeks ago. And the research is saying that face-to-face sales, face-to-face engagement with customers, 6 times the value creation of virtual.
Right.
So the small business community has to get out there. They have to work with their customers. They have to be part of that growth mindset. I loved the Wall Street Journal article last week that talked about 2021 being the year of hope and 2022 being the year of growth.
Right.
But small business is going to power a lot of that return. So we have a small business program. We're doing a lot of telesales in terms of prospecting against those travel small business audiences. And then we're really developing up we had a strong affinity layer in our loyalty program. We're just bolstering that to give, again, that tiered value creation for the owner, for the business travel decision maker, and the actual traveler themselves. So when we think about that, that's a good fit for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, it's working with all of our business partners to make sure we're going to be part of their decision making as they come back in either late this year or 2022.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. What would you say to what advice would you give to hotels that have seen their predominant group of people vanish? I'm thinking about those hotels in Canada where they lost a lot of that fracking business. I'm thinking about urban centers that aren't getting those big citywide events anymore. How do you go about trying to find new areas of business that you may not have tapped into before?
Well, that is a great question, Glenn. And what I would say is really the power of data and information again. So for us, it's really looking at all of the major business intelligence sources and powering that on a market by market basis so that we understand what the demand indicators are and we can have a very scientific approach to actually building the business. Group has come back. It's really small group. Sports entertainment is extraordinarily strong. So those are opportunities. Now, quite frankly, those might be more of a Friday, Saturday stay, but it is doing that market match. And then certainly that small business gives you that Sunday through Thursday. So every market, it's a definitive exercise that one has to go through. It's why at Best Western, we have a sales consulting team so that we can work with our hoteliers because it is not a one size fits all. And we have to go look at what each opportunity represents and really build out that plan with the hotelier to drive their outcomes together.
That makes a whole lot of sense. Michael's wondering, do you see leisure continuing to power your brands this fall? I mean, you've
For sure.
on them
For sure.
to begin with, yeah.
I think the leisure audience, I do think you talked about the millennial being 40 or the top end of the millennial. But the other component that I think we all have to be mindful of, Glenn, is that the size of families has shrunk, the number of family households has shrunk. And we've got to be mindful that there's a lot of individuals that are not encumbered by the school year.
Right.
So we are very focused on those from a messaging so that they can see themselves in their ads and make those choices and messaging to them with offers. So absolutely, the pent-up demand that we saw this summer was unprecedented. We all knew it was going to be a once in a lifetime, given the lack of international outbound opportunities for American travelers. But I just see that pent-up demand is going to carry us through 2022. We just have to be very thoughtful about how we message those audiences, put the right offers in front of them, be in front of the right ways to buy so we are displaying the right offers in front of them. And they will power our future for sure.
I think that's great. Now, Sharon is asking, for those with very limited marketing budgets, what is the number one avenue you would suggest? So if you had all of these choices to make and you can only make one or two places to deploy that marketing capital, where would you go first?
I do think lower funnel in terms of being represented in the major search channels is where people have to be. Because if you don't display there, you're not going to get the booking. So for us, I mean, we partner with Coty. We have our own private label, BW Media Max. Many of the brands have a derivative of that because most partners work with Coty. But to me, it's really making sure in search and meta search that you are displaying, and you have to be understanding that mobile is probably 50 to 60% of that decision journey today. that has to be part of that mix. But that ability to buy through a platform like Cody has really empowers individual hotels to make sure they will display on those channels at the right time.
Right. Excellent. And are you still finding like one of the things you've always done such a great job at educating us to where marketing is going in the future? And you were one of the first to say people will look on their phones, but they'll book on their desktops. This is a number of years ago. All of that's changing. What is kind of like what people typically do these days to get excited about travel, think about travel, and then book travel?
Well, I would say that there's still some of those behaviors, Glenn. It's just that mobile has taken over because people,
Yep.
the smartphone now is, I think, about a 97% penetration rate, and people carry it with them everywhere. So they're doing a lot of dreaming and inspiration with video-based products on their phone. What we are seeing is that mobile now has taken the transcendent place even from booking, and it's because a lot of the pain points of booking on mobile has been changed and evolved. I still think that desktop actually had bigger numbers through COVID because there were so many people working from home and doing those kinds of
Right.
during their break periods.
They
But
were just there in front of it, not representative of when we were all out commuting and on trains and stuff.
correct. But I do think that the future is mobile, and the future is understanding all the payment solutions that you need to have to make it easy for Glenn to have his payment solution tied to his loyalty program. So it's a click as opposed to having to enter a lot of data.
Excellent. Before we wrap up, Dorothy, is there something that I missed, something that you're super passionate about that you want to share with us today?
Well, a personal passion point for me, Glenn, is really around the number of individuals in our industry that were displaced through COVID.
Right.
There was incredible talent loss through this period of time. So I, like many in the industry, are very passionate about bringing back a lot of this talent, making sure we're being very thoughtful about the approach that we take, because I worry with the amount of separations that so many of us had to do, that we haven't become the industry of choice for young people, and we've got to rebuild the employer brand for travel overall. So that's something I'm very excited to be working across various industry associations. I think it's important for all of us to unify. Travel has been such an important part of my life and yours as well, but I think we have to be committed to really inspiring young people to choose us
Right.
as where they want to take their career bet.
Yeah, I think, Dorothy, you are one of the people that have been on the road more than anybody, not only in your capacity as chief marketing officer and SVP at BWH, but when your son was younger, he played hockey. I guess he still does, but you traveled all the time. I feel like every single weekend going to different tournaments. So you really are a poster person for the wonders of the hospitality industry. Any advice you'd give to some of those young folks in order to get to a position that you've managed to achieve in your career?
Well, the thing that I've always offered to everyone, Glenn, is that we all are masters of our own destiny, and it really is being a student of the game. What I believe in hospitality is that you're given keys to the kingdom at earlier stages, that you may not make the kind of money that you may in another industry, but the learning opportunity is remarkable. So I always encourage those to make those investments in their learning journey, because it always pays dividends. And regardless of whether they stay in the travel industry or not, they're going to grow personally and bring a lot of value to their careers.
Beautiful. I love it. Dorothy, how about a good plug for Best Western?
Thank you, Glenn. Pleasure to be with you today.
Hey, thank you so much. We really appreciate you. And it looks like I'm going to get to see you now in just a month at your annual conference.
I can't wait to see you in person, Glenn.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Take care,
All right.
Be
Bye-bye.
well. All right, that was really, really fun. She's one of my favorite people in this business. She's really just done such a great job at what she does. Also, one of the most nicest and generous people with her time. I want to thank all of you guys for being here today. I know I've been off for a week, so I'm a little bit soft, but not too soft to forget to do this. Make sure you download our show on audio podcast version. You can find it at Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. I even got it up on Amazon this past week. So basically, wherever you want to download the audio versions, we are there for you, vibrating with love and light. All right, everybody, thanks so much for being here. And remember, you've got one life, so blaze on. And Anthony would say, take care of yourself, and we'll be back tomorrow. Remember, if I'm a couple of minutes late, blame the NEWH. Not my fault. I'll be getting off stage and running right to this event. Thank you all. We'll see you next time.